Human life seems very peaceful, but in fact it is containing hidden dangers, because the demons have risen up and caused wars in heaven. That battle caused a huge amount of energy to be lost and fall to earth. It not only left a huge hole in the ground, but also brought the naked man with it. Immediately after the meteor fell, a strange wave of energy spread throughout the area. The strange thing is that not everyone was affected by this wave. Only a few people fell into a state of temporary suspension of life. When they woke up, their bodies had abnormal changes. The first person was Agent Raul. He had been on a mission for many years in the border area, and today was the day he was ordered to return home. Unexpectedly, the two people sent to pick Raul up intended to kill him, but the wave of energy came faster than that plot. Raul was thrown away and fell down. In the blink of an eye, his heart stopped beating. The other two thought Raul was dead, but he suddenly came back to life. After waking up, he also discovered that he had the ability to read other people's minds. Thanks to that, Raul understood the intentions of the other two. Then he counterattacked, causing them to fail. At the same time, single mother Irene and her daughter were preparing to leave the city. She wanted to escape from her ex-husband's pursuit, but the two of them had an accident due to the influence of the energy waves. Irene woke up and saw her daughter dying. She was in extreme pain. When she touched her daughter's wounds began to heal rapidly. In just a few seconds, her daughter was healthy, as if the accident had never happened. Irene saw that her daughter was no longer in danger, so she quickly carried her daughter out of the hospital and continued on her way. When the two of them passed by the convenience store, they were stopped by an injured Raul and had their car stolen. Because he had killed the two people who were sent to pick him up, he was now being hunted by the whole city. Raul just needed Irene to take him away from there. He promised that if they obeyed, he would not harm them. So the two people who had just awakened their special abilities accidentally gathered together. Meanwhile, in another place, Peter, a student who was often bullied, also gained extraordinary powers after the energy wave. He accidentally caused the death of a classmate who had bullied him at a party. Peter knew he had caused a big problem, so he decided to leave that place. After all, he had only lived in foster homes for so many years. There was nothing to hold him back there. Meanwhile, Father Joshua, who was giving a speech in the church, was also affected by the energy wave. He suddenly gained the ability to prophesy. He warned that the devil had come to earth. But there was one thing Joshua could not predict. His wife had an affair. Even the child in her womb was not his. Joshua received a great shock. His wife's betrayal made him decide to leave this place. In addition, Dr. Vera of astronomy was also affected by the energy wave. As soon as the meteor fell, she discovered an unusual phenomenon through the surveillance screen. But before she could react, she fell unconscious. After waking up, Vera immediately followed the coordinates on the screen to the scene where the meteor fell. Before she could check carefully, the army had sealed off the area and did not allow anyone to approach, so Vera had to leave. But before leaving the scene, she secretly took a piece of broken meteorite rock to study it carefully. Maybe she would discover something important. However, as soon as Vera stepped into the house, she discovered that a strange man had broken in. The man said he had no intention of harming her. He could also help her find her son, who had been missing for many years. On one condition, Vera needed to help him do something. Vera was then led to the hospital room. There was a woman who had been in a coma for 7 years lying on the bed. What the man asked Vera to do was very simple. Kill the woman in the coma. The man said that this patient had become a vegetable and death was the best way to free her. But for Vera, even a vegetable was still life. Vera looked at the woman in front of her, and in the end she still couldn't do it. The man kept forcing and manipulating Vera, but at that moment, the woman on the bed suddenly opened her eyes and sat up. As soon as she saw the man, she chanted a spell. Immediately after that, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. The mysterious woman's name was Rose. Before Vera could react, Rose had already taken her out of the hospital room. At the same time, Raul had fallen into a coma because his gunshot wound was not treated in time. He had lost too much blood. Irene thought this was an opportunity to get out of trouble, but her daughter did not think Raul was a bad person. She wanted Irene to take Raul to the hospital for treatment. Irene did not want to disappoint her daughter, so she took Raul to the hospital. When Irene was about to leave, the doctor said that the gunshot wound needed to be reported, so she asked Irene to stay temporarily. At that moment, Raul also woke up. When he found himself in the hospital, he wanted to run away, but he accidentally bumped into Irene, causing her to fall to the ground. The moment the two touched, the gunshot wound on his body miraculously healed. Raul saw that the police had arrived at the reception desk, so he quickly pulled Irene and her daughter away. They panicked and ran into the church. This was also where Peter was staying temporarily. Priest Joshua was praying there. Vera, who had just been brought by Rose, was also go there. As soon as Joshua saw Rose, he recognized her as the person who had appeared in his vision when he was on the verge of death. Rose told everyone that a disaster was about to strike the world. What they saw was not a meteor, but Satan, who had just been expelled from heaven. Now he had come to earth to spread disaster by exploiting people's fear and anxiety. God had chosen 7 people as messengers, and each of them was given a special ability. The people present here were not random, but were all predestined. Since Vera had not yet realized her ability, she was the only one who did not believe what Rose said, because someone followed the trail to the church. Everyone had to temporarily split up to avoid being chased. Raul wanted to find his brother for help, but when he got home, he found that his brother had been taken away. Only his niece, Nadia, was left in the house, who was in a panic. It turned out that Raul's brother used to work in a strip club, and he was a drug dealer who specialized in supplying illegal substances. Raul saw the words "blood for blood" written on the wall, and immediately realized that his brother had made a grudge against someone. Afraid that the enemy would return, he quickly took Nadia away from that place. After many missed attempts, everyone finally met each other by chance in the bar. Rose said that if humanity wanted to prevent the apocalypse, in addition to finding all 7 messengers, they also had to find the 4 horsemen of the devil. Those 4 horsemen were war, disease, famine, and death. Although they still lacked a messenger, time was running out. They had to act quickly to find the 4 horsemen before the seal was broken. They couldn't wait for the demons to act. Blind searching was clearly ineffective. Joshua could rely on the images in his hallucinations to provide clues to the group. He saw the impending nuclear war, along with familiar faces and bloody wine glasses. Although Raul wanted to save the world, he still prioritized finding his brother above all else. Since his brother's life and death were unknown, Raul had to entrust Nadia to Irene's care. Raul said he would return as soon as he found his brother. Irene had nowhere to go with at the moment, but luckily Nadia led them to a house that had been sealed by the government so no one else would come. Vera received news from her Irish partner. The military had filled the crater, and it seemed they were trying to hide something. Ireland gave the meteorite to the planetary geology expert, and tomorrow morning they will go to the geology department to see the research results. The next morning, when Irene was about to go out, she told Nadia and her daughter Ami to stay home and be obedient, but she was surprised to find a half-burned newspaper in the fireplace. The newspaper had a picture of the Afghan Prime Minister, and his appearance was exactly the same as the face that appeared in Joshua's vision. Could the Prime Minister be one of the 4 horsemen? Elsewhere, when Raul was asking about his brother's whereabouts, he met a mysterious man. This man claimed to be a federal agent. He said he knew where Raul's brother was being held, but in return, he wanted Raul to reveal the names of the messengers and their entire plan. Only then did Raul realize that the devil was very close, and just as Rose had warned, he would take advantage of fear and confusion to create chaos. At the same time, Vera and Ireland arrived at the geological department. Through the analysis, they discovered that the meteorite contained an unknown element, so the people here needed more time to conduct further tests. But when Vera and Ireland returned to get the sample, they found that it had mysteriously disappeared. Vera immediately ran out to search, and she encountered a man with suspicious behavior in the hallway. It seemed that the man also discovered that he was being followed and turned around to run away. Vera quickly chased after him. When she was about to catch up, she was blocked by a door that had not been authorized to open. She was surprised to find that she could pass through it. Vera turned around to try again and found that her body was lying motionless on the floor. Ireland panicked and gave her first aid. It turned out that Vera's ability was to separate the soul from the body, and that proved that what Rose said was true. After awakening her ability, Vera also returned to the bar where Rose had been waiting for a long time. In fact, Rose already knew everyone's ability, but before they discovered it themselves, she couldn't reveal it. Everyone had to realize their own power. Now that everyone had awakened their abilities, they could start planning their actions as soon as Raul returned. Late at night, Raul, covered in injuries, returned to the bar. He told Rose that he had made a deal with the devil, and that he had revealed all of their information in exchange for clues about his brother. Unfortunately, in the end, he still couldn't save his brother. Rose understood his situation very well because he was able to turn back in the face of the devil's temptation, which was already very precious. The most important thing was that now everyone was finally working together. Based on Joshua's perspective, they determined that the Prime Minister was most likely one of the 4 horsemen. The Prime Minister and the parliamentarians would attend the energy conference tomorrow. Rose's group had to seize this opportunity to prevent the unsealing. At the crucial moment, Peter was arrested by the police. It turned out that not long before, Peter had received a call from his girlfriend. He thought she was worried about him, but she was actually helping the police locate him. In any case, Peter's crime was manslaughter, so he had no choice but to accept being arrested and leave in the police car. However, the plan could not be without Peter's participation, so the remaining people decided to split into two groups to act. One group would go to the energy conference to investigate. Rose would be responsible for rescuing Peter, but the devil was still one step faster than her. He disguised himself as Peter's defense attorney and kept mentioning the lonely childhood and the manslaughter charge to shake Peter's spirit. When Rose found Peter, he was in complete despair. He thought that even though he was part of the messenger group, he would eventually be abandoned. Peter was then escorted to a high-security prison. He was constantly provoked by other prisoners on the bus. Through the rearview mirror, Peter saw that Rose's car was still following closely behind, so he decided to try to escape again. He easily escaped from the handcuffs and jumped into Rose's car. Then the two of them quickly moved to the conference. At the same time, with the help of Raul, the rest of the group also got their ID cards and mixed them into the conference hall. Vera used her astral projection ability to eavesdrop on the conversation between the Prime Minister and the parliamentarians, and she knew that the real purpose of this trip was to sign a peace treaty. If so, the Prime Minister had no intention of starting a war, so he couldn't be a war knight. Vera's guess was correct. The real knight was a female congresswoman named Jerry, sitting next to the Prime Minister. She had signed a contract with the devil, and she cooperated with the knights to plot to assassinate the Prime Minister at the conference. And Jerry raising her wine glass would be the signal for action. The messengers who discovered this plot had to stop it. Peter arrived in time and risked his life by crashing his car into the conference hall, causing the sniper to miss and hit Jerry. However, because the female congresswoman raised her wine glass as a signal to start the assassination, her crime was already established. The first knight was officially awakened. From that point on, even if everyone killed her, things couldn't be reversed. Because Jerry accidentally took the bullet for the Prime Minister, she was promoted to the position of Minister of Defense. At this point, everyone realized that although they possessed supernatural powers, those powers were passive. They can't just activate it at any time. For example, Joshua hasn't seen any prophetic visions for 3 days in a row. It was Amy's birthday, and as usual, Irene was going to take her daughter to the library to read, but Irene had only turned away for a moment when Amy disappeared. Irene looked out the window and saw her ex-husband forcing her daughter into the car. Luckily, Peter and Nadia were with her this time. Peter immediately stopped the car with his hand. Irene's ex-husband lost control of his anger and tried to pull out a gun to shoot Irene, but Nadia had been given a gun by Raul for self-defense, so she reacted in time. Seeing that he was about to shoot, she immediately pulled the trigger first. After all, he was Amy's father, so she was extremely heartbroken to see her father die right before her eyes. Irene didn't want Nadia to become a murderer. In order for her daughter not to be haunted for the rest of her life, Irene was forced to use her ability to save her ex-husband. The whole thing was secretly observed by the devil. It turned out that her ex-husband's discovery of Irene was also orchestrated by the devil from the beginning. After a period of rest, Joshua finally saw a new scene. Joshua saw the tycoon calculating something on the computer, but it was not easy to approach him because the tycoon received threats every day. He chose to live on the top floor and was strictly guarded by many bodyguards. This was when Vera's ability really came into play. She could quietly infiltrate without being detected, but every ability has its weaknesses. When Vera's soul leaves her body still functions but cannot breathe on its own. A person who does not breathe for more than 6 minutes will die from suffocation, which means Vera only has 6 minutes to find a clue. She quickly walked through the hallways and entered the tycoon's room. She saw countless electronic cockroaches crawling around, and eventually they merged into a skull symbol on the computer screen. When the 6 minutes were about to end, Vera also jumped out of the window and returned to her body. She then told everyone what had happened. Peter looked it up online and found out that the symbol belonged to a hacker group called Abaddon. This was a famous hacker organization that had robbed 3 major banks. At the same time, Ireland contacted Vera and said that he had found information about the truck that was carrying the stolen meteorite, that the meteorite was related to the devil. Vera and Ireland immediately set off to follow the truck into the jungle. There was a top-secret base in the jungle, and the surrounding area was heavily guarded, so the two of them were completely unable to break in. Because of the urgent situation, Vera was forced to use her ability again. Unexpectedly, she saw the war knight inside the base, the female Minister of Defense, Jerry. Sure enough, the meteorite was taken away by her subordinates. Not only that, but the deformed bodies when the meteorite fell were also kept here. Jerry was preparing to collect these materials to create a completely new type of weapon of mass destruction. Elsewhere, the remaining messengers had also found the last person in the group, Wallen. Wallen used to make money in casinos in Hong Kong, but recently, all her accounts were stolen by Abandon. This time, Wallen came to Houston to confront that hacker group and get her asset back. Her ability is to transform into anyone at will. After a period of investigation, Rose's group discovered that the health insurance company had been Abaddon's target. All of the company's unprocessed compensation records were transferred to a non-profit clinic called Nero. The group went to this clinic to investigate. In the photo posted on the wall in the company, Joshua discovered that the computer the boy was holding had the Aben logo printed on it. After Joshua asked the staff, he knew that the boy's name was Lurlin. Lurlin's mother had leukemia, but her bone marrow transplant application was rejected many times by the insurance company. Lurlin, out of resentment towards the insurance company, hacked into their account system. Lurlin even planned to spread the virus. If that happened, many people would be affected. After Wallen found out that Lurlin was the one who caused everything, she immediately went to his residence to demand justice. She had no intention of saving the world, and she was only with Rose's group to use them to investigate. Wallen used her ability to transform into Lurlan's mother. However, his mother had died a long time ago, and her remains were placed in his bedroom. So Lurlan immediately realized that this mother was an imposter. He put poison in the tea that Wallen drank. Then he tied her up and questioned her about her real purpose. But fortunately, other messengers arrived in time to save her. In order to save Wallen, who was poisoned, Irene was forced to use her ability. Because Irene had cured too many people, she had the opposite effect and fell into a coma, so everyone had to take her to the hospital. Vera also returned from the forest. Before handing over the meteorite to the Geological Bureau, she kept a small piece and wore it around her neck. When she was still in the base, she discovered that if the War Knight approached the meteorite, it would glow red. At this moment, the meteorite continued to glow. This showed that the Plague Knight was very close. Sure enough, they quickly found Lurlin's location. Under everyone's persuasion, Lurlin decided to surrender to the police. Wallen, after being saved by Irene, also realized the importance of unity and decided to join the group of messengers to prevent the apocalypse. They did not expect that shortly after Lurlin confessed, he was released on bail. This was definitely caused by the devil. After being released on bail, Lurlin did not spread the virus, but he killed the director of the insurance company. His crime was established, and the messengers also felt that the second seal had been broken. Although everyone tried very hard, the results were still not as expected. 2 consecutive failures made the whole group fall into a state of despair. They felt that if they could not prevent the apocalypse, everyone should cherish the last moments and do what they wanted. So Irene decided to take Ami away from this place. Joshua's father was accused of domestic violence, so he returned to the church to continue his role as a missionary. Nadia's mother told her that Raul was her biological father. Years ago, Raul's brother's wife had an affair with Raul. Nadia was the result of that relationship, so Raul decided to try to fulfill his responsibility as a father. Raul would mend the relationship between Nadia and her mother for the rest of his life. Peter and Wallen went to find his biological parents. The only one who continued to persevere was Vera, who did not believe in gods. Vera noticed that Joshua was getting more and more depressed, and he even wanted to use drugs to escape reality. So she took him out to relax and change the atmosphere. In the supermarket, Joshua met a strange old lady. He was sure he had never met her before, but she called him by his name. It turned out that this old lady was a messenger from the previous generation, and her abilities were exactly the same as Joshua's. She had gone through many hardships with the other messengers to prevent the apocalypse. She hoped that they would not give up easily, because only when all the messengers were united could they fight against the dark forces. What no one expected was that everyone happened to meet each other in the supermarket. They all smiled helplessly but warmly. Then the group regained their spirits and decided to continue on their journey to find the next knight. From Joshua's recent illusions, they guessed that the next knight might be the farmer, but this person had a twin brother, so they did not know who the real knight was. Now, all that was left was Rose for the group to gather all the messengers. That night, Joshua suddenly received a call from Rose. She said that she had been captured by hunters and needed him to come and rescue her. Joshua panicked and was about to leave immediately, but at that moment, the devil appeared again. He asked the group to share information with him. The devil promised that if the transaction action was successful, he would help Wallen get back the lost money. He also promised to help Raul clear his name and help Vera find her son. Then the devil told them the story of the past. April 6, 208 was a special day for everyone present. That day, Vera's son Michael went missing. Raul broke his arm on a mission. Rose got engaged. Irene gave birth to Amy. Peter tried to end his life. That day, he also found a new family to adopt at the hospital. Joshua went to visit patients there. If it weren't for an unexpected event, they might have met 7 years ago. That was when the devil hired someone to assassinate Rose. One shot couldn't kill her. As for the devil, he was sealed by God, so he couldn't easily kill people on earth. It wasn't that he seduced others, but that the messengers were too subjective and trusted Rose too easily. The devil revealed that she used to be a battlefield nurse. During the fierce war, she often witnessed seriously wounded soldiers begging for morphine injections to be freed. At first, Rose was very against it, but after the first time, she began to be fascinated by the feeling of controlling other people's lives. After the war, Rose was transferred to Houston Hospital to take care of dying patients. Here, she often injected drugs into the patients herself. She did this to be able to control their lives because most of the patients were elderly or seriously ill. So when they died, no one suspected Rose until she met Dr. Hart's wife, with whom she was secretly having an affair. Dr. Hart's wife had a car accident, so he was extremely heartbroken and determined to cherish his wife more. This made Rose angry and decided to kill his wife. Not only that, she also took the engagement ring. From that moment, Rose's crime was officially formed. In fact, she was a knight who died. Even the devil didn't expect the knights to escape his control. They wanted to destroy both the messenger and the devil. When Rose woke up and faced the devil for the first time, the first thing she said was that his death was near. Meanwhile, Joshua set out to find Rose. He found her imprisoned in an abandoned church. He freed her and was about to take her away, but she asked him to tell her about his most recent vision. In the urgent situation, Joshua was forced to reveal it. Rose let go of his hand immediately. The plague knight and the war knight emerged from the darkness. Joshua was killed by Rose. At that time, Irene, who was at home taking care of her daughter, also received the news that Rose was a knight. Not long before, the old lady came to see Irene. She said that the reason the messenger's abilities were defective was because some of them were not real messengers. Ability was a gift from God, so there could be no side effects. After Irene recounted everyone's abilities, the old lady said that Rose's ability to understand all languages did not exist in the world. When everyone arrived at the church, they only saw Joshua's cold body. The devil offered to share information again. He said that if everyone agreed, he could revive Joshua. The old lady had said that if they wanted to prevent the disaster, they had to gather all their strength. They could not lose Joshua at this time. Perhaps making a deal with the devil was their last choice. Under the devil's power, Joshua was revived and recounted everything that had happened. He felt that Rose was too hasty, so he had a premonition that something was wrong. So when Joshua told everyone about his illusions, he deliberately lied. As long as everyone acted quickly, they would find the famine knight before Rose could do anything. The group immediately set off for the farm, but Wallen began to suffer from the after effects of her power abuse. She often forgot important things in a strange way. She couldn't remember many things. When she stopped at the rest stop, Vera happened to see a photo of her son. She decided to go with Ireland to find her son first and then gather with everyone else. But this journey was not easy. Peter, who was wanted, was also recognized by others. Fortunately, Raul handled the situation in time. But if everyone stayed in the car, it would be too dangerous. So Raul and Irene decided to let Peter get off the car first. Joshua and Wallen continued their journey to the farm. The two of them used the excuse that their car had broken down to stay at a farmer's house. Raul couldn't sleep at midnight. At this time, he discovered that a man had secretly put salt in the water tank. If that water was used to water the fields, the crops would definitely be completely ruined. The next morning, Raul immediately told the homeowner about his discovery. The farmer was very grateful for the timely warning. He even lent them his car to go to town to investigate further. At this time, the town was holding a new agricultural product launch. Joshua and Wallen had arrived early. When everyone had gathered, they discovered the speakers at the ceremony were the twin brothers. They had just invented a smart irrigation device. It could not only water the dry fields, but also create artificial rain. The device was about to be activated, and everyone knew that the rain-making device was not simple. Wallen suggested killing both twins because they did not know which of them was the real knight of famine. Now they had no chance to correct their mistake. The group did not act immediately. The consequences would cause many more innocent people to die. Raul agreed with Wallen's opinion, but he still didn't want to cause casualties to innocent people, so everyone decided to investigate further. Joshua found the video posted by reporter Jahi online. He saw that the fields that were once lush were now severely withered. Jahi said that that the area had been used for experiments and the people had been bribed to keep quiet. The situation on Vera's side was not good either. When she couldn't find her child, she was also captured by the army. Fortunately, Vera had the ability to separate her soul from her body. She contacted her teammates in time so everyone could locate her. The group divided the tasks clearly. Irene pretended to be a reporter to approach the younger twin. Raul played the role of assistant. Peter and Wallen took on the task of rescuing Vera. Thanks to her beautiful appearance, Irene quickly won her younger brother's trust. From his story, everyone knew that the rainmaking device was promoted by the older brother. The younger brother did not want to activate it, because if the device was activated, the entire field would be completely dried up. At that time, only the plants they researched would survive. So the people were forced to depend on them. In other words, the two twins would have exclusive control of the entire agricultural area if the device was activated. Joshua also discovered the photo of his brother meeting Rose online, so he quickly sent a message to Raul that his brother was the famine knight. Meanwhile, Vera was rescued by Wallen and Peter in time. Wallen used her ability to transform into a war knight. Then the two took advantage of the chaos to take Vera out. When Raul was about to attack the older brother, the younger brother suddenly shot first. It turned out that the knight was actually the younger brother. The younger brother had always tried to prevent the device from being activated. The moment the younger brother killed his brother, the seal inside him was also released. Now, as long as all four knights appear, the final seal will be opened and the end of the world will officially begin. It seems that the messengers have completely given up, but Joshua continues to see new illusions. This time he sees the seventh messenger, who is the reporter Jahi, who reported on the withered fields. His ability is to control electricity because he accidentally activated his ability on the plane, injuring the crew. He was considered a terrorist and imprisoned. Everyone quickly determined where Jahi was being held. Vera used her ability to sneak into the prison to investigate the situation. She discovered that Jahi's spirit had collapsed and was no longer conscious due to being imprisoned for a long time. He was tied up with a special shirt and there were more than 10 armed guards around, so breaking in was not easy. The group discussed and decided to let Wallen disguise himself as a guard. Meanwhile, Raul played the role of a drug dealer who was caught and infiltrated into the prison. At this time, Wallen's memory had deteriorated so severely that she couldn't remember what she was doing. She had just entered with Raul to remove her powers when she lost all her memories. She misunderstood Raul as a bad guy. The argument between the two attracted the attention of the guards, but fortunately, they still had a backup plan. Peter used his strength to rush in and successfully rescue Raul and Wallen. Thanks to Irene's reminder, Wallen looked at the tattoo on her wrist. She gradually remembered her true identity and current mission. Finally, they reached the cell to rescue Jahi. He still didn't understand anything. The moment all 7 people gathered, the bad reactions on the messengers' bodies completely disappeared. Everyone explained to Jahi about the current situation as well as what they knew about the knights. Joshua saw the illusion again. This time, he saw everyone dead. He also saw Vera's son, Michael. By now, Joshua's visions had all come true. Even though everyone knew that the upcoming trip might be their last, they still decided to risk their lives. After everyone had arranged for their loved ones, they headed to the place where the final seal would be lifted. Several knights had joined forces to create the element of creation. It had the power to destroy the world from the meteorite that fell. They had also arranged for 7 drones to drop the element. Houston would be the first city to be destroyed. When the messengers arrived at the control area, they were immediately caught red-handed by the knights. It turned out that the knights had predicted that the messengers would come to stop them, so they had been waiting there in advance. This was the best time to destroy all the messengers, but the messengers did not come empty-handed. They had secretly placed a generator in the control tent. As long as Jahi could reach the tent, the plan to release the element of creation would be nullified. The problem was that there were at least 50 armed soldiers guarding the area, so Joshua suggested using them as shields to escort Jahi inside. It turned out that this was the real reason for the death of the messengers in the illusion. The messengers emotionally admitted that this was probably their most meaningful death. They counted down a few seconds together and then rushed towards the control tent. Each messenger fell one by one, but that still didn't make the generator work. The sky immediately turned blood red, but at that moment, a lightning bolt from the sky tore the sky and created a large hole. The disaster that seemed to be about to happen was prevented. Instead, there was a huge rainstorm. It turned out that this was God's test to see if humanity was still worthy of being saved. The messengers proved it with their actions, so God God came to save them. The devil knew that God was always secretly watching, so he had been hiding in the dark for a long time. In fact, the devil used to be a messenger, but he couldn't bear the responsibility and chose to betray. That rain brought the messengers back to life completely. Meanwhile, the knights disappeared in the white rain. Everything seemed to be over. Finally, Vera's son Michael was found safe. Everyone had a happy life. Only, Joshua still believed that their mission was not really over because their power had not disappeared. The old lady once said that the thing more terrifying than the devil was those who opposed faith. Joshua also discovered that Ami seemed to have the ability to prophesy in her daily drawings. In the picture Ami drew before Michael was found, the boy appeared with his family. In that painting, there was also the shadow of the apostate who could destroy the great messenger. This made Vera feel uneasy because the devil had said that every great messenger was named Michael. She herself could not remember why she named her son Michael. When they saw Michael and Amy playing happily, both Joshua and Vera chose not to believe in that prophecy. What they did not know was that the devil had not left the world yet, and he had realized Ami's true identity. In fact, the challenge for the messengers had just begun. But the movie ended here. See you in the next videos. Goodbye, and see you again.